What's up, everybody? It is Jordan here from Hive Mind Hobbies. We've had the detachment point totals for almost a week. I think they came out last Tuesday, and I've been playing some games. Just kind of, we don't know points yet, but I've been putting a couple of detachments together and seeing how they feel for the past week and a half or so. And I just wanted to make this video to talk about my first impressions on how some of the detachments fit with each other. I'm going to talk about our three detachment point detachments and my thoughts on those as well, and just kind of get a brief survey on our overall possible combinations that we have with our revealed detachments. Of course, once points come out and everything, we know the points for enhancements and upgrades and everything like that. I will be going in depth for every single detachment, but this video is kind of a zoom out, and let's take a look at the combinations that are available to us as Tyranid players. And then when we get points and everything, then we can really dive in a little bit deeper. So yeah, let's take a look. First up, we're going to talk about our three detachment point detachments. We have two of them. We're going to zoom in on Invasion Fleet first. And in my opinion, Invasion Fleet is kind of like the quintessential, covers all. I think everybody really understood, at least from my perspective. Maybe some people thought it might be 2 points, but I think it's pretty easy to understand that Invasion Fleet is going to be 3 detachment points no matter what, right? Because it kind of covers everything. I think the design space that Games Workshop has is if your detachment is buffing a small number of units, if it's like really zooming in on these specific units, then it's going to be 1 to 2 detachment points. But if it's a detachment that gives rules to your entire army, and those rules are buffing your entire army, then you're going to be locked into that 3 detachment point pretty easily. I think it makes sense, because then there's a chance where if you're not that, then you have a chance to like buff a lot of your units twice. And then I think we approach a design space where certain armies can be a little bit volatile or toxic. So my brief sojourn on 3 detachment points, but let's briefly talk about Invasion Fleet. Of course, it's the Jack of all trades detachment. It's the one we've been playing for probably like 4 years now or something. I don't know, coming up on it. It's adaptable to many different armies, many different play styles. It supports all of our units, and its detachment disposition is going to be take and hold. And I think take and hold dispositions are probably going to be the easiest to kind of like transfer from 10th edition to 11th edition. If you're a little anxious about getting into the different primaries and everything, I strongly recommend just taking a couple games and playing take and hold on them, because a lot of those primaries are hold these objectives. And then it's also like, hold these objectives, and did you kill a unit this turn? And if you do those things, then you just get your primary. So I think it also makes sense that Invasion Fleet is take and hold. It's very kind of just, boom, you're playing the mission, you're doing the things, you're invading the world, etc., etc. And no surprise for Invasion Fleet being 3 detachment points. Makes sense. Subterranean Assault. Now, Subterranean Assault, I feel like the Tyranid community is pretty up in arms, or some spaces. I feel like maybe it's one of those things where the people who are most upset are the loudest. A lot of people wanted Subterranean Assault to be 2 detachment points. Now, if we go back to Invasion Fleet, let's zoom out. These are at least my thought process. If you disagree with me, you are perfectly able to do that. But think about it. Invasion Fleet is 3 detachment points because it is a jack of all trades. It's adaptable to many different armies, and it supports all units. And if you think about Subterranean Assault, it is a jack of all trades army. It is adaptable to many different armies, and it supports all units. Whereas Invasion Fleet's adaptability comes with a very point blank. You're going to either take sustained, lethals, or precision, which actually might be coming up a little bit more often because precision is quite good in the new edition. Subterranean Assault's adaptability comes more with the positioning and the maneuverability of your units and being able to adapt on the board space rather than necessarily adapt in the damage section of that, which, I mean, Subterranean Assault still does quite a bit of damage. If Subterranean Assault was 2 detachment points, Folks, you know, I'm a Tyranid guy. I will always, of course, want Tyranids to play well in the game. But I think we also need to understand that if Subterranean Assault was 2 detachment points, and you could take things like the Norn detachment with it, or you could take even the Warrior one, Lictors doesn't really matter. I think it's mostly just Norns. If you could do the Norn detachment and Subterranean Assault, I then think that it is probably not good for the game. So I guess it's a little sad, but I think if we zoom out and we really look at the game, you know, in a realistic way, I think it really makes sense that Subterranean Assault is 3 detachment points. We don't need that detachment to be any more flexible than it already is. And last but not least is Disruption. Disruption is going to be, I feel like, it's not like super complicated in the primary scope, but you are going to be doing things like doing actions as well as killing units, as well as doing those other things. So I think Disruption is a little bit more in the interactive side of the gameplay, as opposed to Invasion Fleet, where you were just holding objectives and then maybe once in a while killing a unit or something. Subscribe. If you're here, that means that you clicked on this video because you like Tyranid content, or you wanted to hear about Tyranid content. And this is going to be the place to be for your Tyranid content as 11th edition is unfolding. And we are getting into learning about this great game. So we're going to be talking a whole lot about Tyranids on this channel, and I would love to have you help us reach 5,000 subscribers. Just triple check that you're subscribed down below. We are going to be starting our Army List review shows very soon. If I'm available, it might happen later this week. And if not later this week, then it will be the following week, pretty early. And I'd like to do a couple of Army List review shows just to get us going. I'm just waiting for the points, you know? And if the points release on a day where my schedule lines up, we'll do it the same day. But I will let you know. I'm also going to be releasing at least one Tyranid tactic video a week, like this one that you're watching right now. So if you're interested in learning about Tyranids together and trying to get better at this game with our space bug guys, come on in. It's going to be a great time. In addition, check out Wednesday Night Warhammer. We do lots of streamed Warhammer games. And honestly, during the summer, it's more like whatever night Warhammer. Whenever 2 of us in the studio are free, we're just going to play games. And so if you're interested in some really fun battle reports with some spicy pepper shenanigans as well as some other things, come join us on Wednesday Night Warhammer. It's a really good time. Anyways, let's go back to our discussion in this video. And now, this might seem a little bit backwards. We went 3 detachment point detachments, and now we're going to be going over the 1 detachment point detachments. And that is because I want us to go over, and again, just zooming out, just kind of taking a broad scope of things. We're going to go over our 1 detachment point detachments so that when we discuss our 2 detachment point detachments, we kind of have a stable ground as to what different kind of combos I'm talking about. And we can also talk about the dispositions that are within those detachments to kind of see what their playstyle is going to be like. So the first one is Ambush Predators. This is the one where your Death Leaper, your Lictors, and your Neurolictors get Deep Strike as well as reroll 1s to hit against characters. So pretty interesting. I think Deep Strike is actually more meaningful on the Lictors and Neurolictors that you might think. I think it's actually pretty good, especially the fact that Lictors have the Rapid Ingress rule, that they can do it for free. So you can Rapid Ingress a Lictor for free. And I think command points are actually going to be a very hot commodity in 11th edition, because there's a good chance you don't want to be throwing away your secondaries as much. So any ability that allows you to do powerful things like Rapid Ingress for free, I think is going to be highlighted a little bit, and it is going to be very valuable in your army roster. So I think Lictors being able to just kind of show up anywhere, you know, on the table for free, was very good. In addition, being outside of 8 instead of being outside of 9 is actually a pretty impactful change in screening out. It's just 1 inch different, but it truly is quite a bit harder to screen out your entire backfield now, especially if you're taking a look at the terrain layouts. Sometimes the backfield is pretty open. There's not a whole lot of terrain, and besides specifically screening out your backfield, there's not a whole lot of reason for you to have a whole bunch of units back there. So having deep strike and being able to rapid ingress and just showing up wherever they want, and also forcing your opponent to move things back, is a really powerful rule. In addition, the reroll ones to hit is like, it's okay. We can talk for a moment about Deathleaper not having the reroll ones to hit rule. Yes, I agree. It's strange. I don't know. Sometimes in this game, there's things that I really do my best to just decide that I'm not going to be upset or annoyed about, and then I move on with my life. And one of those things that I've decided to not be upset about is Deathleaper not having reroll ones to hit. I'm just moving on. It's weird. I agree with you guys, but I'm moving on. The upgrades in this are very, very good. I think the reactive move on the Neurolictor, I've played a couple games with that, and it's very, very strong. It's quite powerful. Basically, if you play it right, your Neurolictor is invincible, and it should never be killed at all, because you just move it out of the way of being in lone op, and then your opponent can't target it. If you're in Vanguard Onslaught, then you can also combo it with the 6-inch lone op stratagem. That's some very, very good stuff. The Von Ryans, -3 to detection range, that's pretty good too. I think we really still quite don't know the flow of the detection range thing. We're assuming that is basically Von Ryans are going to be lone op if you give them that upgrade, because you'll be hidden, and then you're 15 inches hidden. But then if you have -3 detection, then you're going to be 12 inches. So it's essentially what we know as lone op. So that's pretty good too, depending on how good Von Ryans end up being in the meta. Seems interesting. There's a couple of pretty good stratagems too. I'm not super excited about the Von Ryans Leapers detection one. There's one that adds detection range to your enemies' units if your Von Ryans or Lictors are looking at them. I do like the one where if you're attacking something that's hidden, you get +1 strength and AP, and I think that's quite strong. And last but not least, this detachment is Disruption. So if you take this with a 2 detachment point, you can either choose this Disruption, or you can choose whatever your 2 detachment point detachment is, whatever that disposition is, and go from there. Again, Disruption is going to be a little bit of disrupting your opponent, meaning killing units, doing some different actions, and being more interactive in the game, as opposed to some other dispositions. Moving right along, we have the Talons of the Norn Queen. Another 1 detachment point detachment, and then this one is where it basically gives your Norns, assimilators, or emissaries kind of the flexibility. They get to change their I forget what it's called. They get to change their super awesome mission rule once per game. Okay, so that means they either get to have OC 15 on a specific objective, or they get to reroll hits and wounds against a specific unit. I think you still probably just take the OC 15 and the 5-up Feel No Pain on an objective for most of the time, because these guys are just going to want to be somewhere and tank a whole bunch of damage and then just get you a whole bunch of primary throughout the rest of the game. And being able to kind of, if you're on an objective and you're like, okay, I think I've secured this objective basically for the rest of the game, I want to be able to change my Norn into OC 15 on that other objective, and then walk off that, and then charge something, and then be really buff and be spooky. It's pretty good. And the fact that it's only 1 detachment point, I think, is also quite strong too. I think the main thing to focus on is the stratagem support, and the upgrades that are in this detachment allow assimilators to kind of be Norn emissaries. There's an upgrade that allows for a Norn assimilator to have a 4-up invulnerable save. And then there's also a stratagem to allow the assimilator to get a 4-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds. Now, depending on where the points shake up, there's actually an argument that instead of emissaries, you just run 3 Norn assimilators, and then you just do that. And I actually played this in a game on Wednesday Night Warhammer that you should definitely check out. I did this detachment, and then I also did Assimilation Swarm, and I did have 3 Norn assimilators, and that was actually a really, really good game against a very tough Thousand Suns list. So I highly recommend you check it out to kind of see how that list functions, and what it looks like on the tabletop. And of course, if it's Norns taking objectives, it's going to be taking a hold. which I think aligns very, very well and is a pretty good primary for these Norn guys and their flexibility. All right. Warrior Bioform Onslaught is our last one detachment point detachment. And I truly think that this is a perfect example of a one detachment point detachment, because it is really zooming in on like 3 different units or something like that, 3 or 4 different units, and saying, hey, these units get buffs. That's it. So your list can really skew into, let's do only warriors. Or maybe we just take a bite-sized piece and we say, hey, we want to run 2 warrior units that work really well within this other detachment, Vanguard Onslaught. And then the rest of our list, we're not going to really care about that because we've already got that. In addition, it is also take and hold too. So if you like that detachment disposition, which again, I think is going to be a pretty nice transition from 10th to 11th edition. Most of the missions are, hey, you're kind of playing 10th edition still, with a couple of extra little caveats. So it's pretty good. Speaking of their different stratagems, there's 2 stratagems that I think really, really work pretty well in this detachment. Is the 1-1 to wound. It's very, very strong with warriors, especially since they have a 5-up invulnerable save in this detachment. And then I think the sticky objective one is also pretty good too. Just being able to put warriors somewhere, sticky that objective, and then they can charge off of it or something. The timing of that stratagem is in the movement phase, so if you end your move and you're just towed down to an objective, boom, 1 CP, sticky that, and then you can charge off of it. That seems very, very good. It's really, really kind of cool. The most exciting part about this detachment, in my opinion, is actually the enhancements. One, they have an enhancement that is my favorite enhancement that I think we have in the entire codex, is the +1 AP twin linked enhancement. And I'm super excited to try this on the Tyranid Prime Flash Whip. Getting twin linked in AP3 is really, really disgusting. His whip attacks are even going to be demolishing things with AP3. Oh my word. I'm really excited to put this guy on the table and see kind of what he can do even against tougher targets now that he can reroll everything. And then the other enhancement I think you also take, +1 to hit to the whole squad. My idea right now is running Vanguard Onslaught, running a 10-man squad of Hormigons with the Lash Whip Prime with that enhancement. So he's just kind of, he goes out there and he mollywops something. And then you run 1 squad of 6 warriors with a winged Tyranid Prime with +1 to hit. So then you don't have to use Surprise Assault in order to get them to hit on 2s. And they're kind of a blender as well. Very cool detachment. A lot of space to cook and brew. Of course, again, depending on where those enhancements lie up with how many points they're going to be. 2 detachment point detachments. We've got a couple of them. I think we got 4 or 5. And the first one is Assimilation Swarm. And again, I think this is a perfect example. 2 detachment point. I think this is going to buff more units, of course. I mean, obviously, than the Lictor detachment or the Warrior detachment, as well as the Norns. But it still doesn't buff the entire codex, so it is still zooming a little bit in. Now, Assimilation Swarm, I think it's just going to be the Norn detachment. And that is actually something that maybe I'm a little bit concerned about. I don't want us to feel like we are pigeonholed and we are fixed to, okay, you're playing Assimilation Swarm, you're playing 3 assimilators, got it, But that's like my first thing that I'm thinking about when I'm like trying to brew with Assimilation Swarm is you just put 3 assimilators in the list. You make them have a 4-up invulnerable save. You can have them reactively 4-up Feel No Pain against mortals. That seems pretty good, right? And it combos very, very spookily with Norns. Just them being able to be so durable and then have like 1 Pyrovore next to them, healing them over and over, and then they can also heal something too. My list that I played on Wednesday Night Warhammer was pretty spooky. It used a couple of Maleceptors alongside of the Norn assimilators, as well as a Winged Hive Tyrant to kind of just generate this defensive buff and really get a whole lot of advantage through just healing and then just being tough and standing on objectives. It's pretty good. I think this has potential to be pretty volatile and close to like the Catan. Remember when Catans came out? Everybody was complaining about Catans. This could be a space where people actually complain about us, right? Because a whole bunch of Norns that can heal each other and can have OC 15 on whatever they want. That's got potential to be pretty tough, And then we have priority assets. Think of priority assets as like going to be between take and hold and disruption or recon, where you're taking objectives and then sometimes doing an action, but not necessarily fully in on the action side of things, kind of more of a flexible bit. So my recommendation, if you were doing Assimilation Swarm and the Norn detachment, is you probably play take and hold, just so that your Norns can stand on objectives and get you a whole bunch of primary every single turn without really worrying about it. But yeah, Assimilation Swarm seems very strong with Norns. Interested to see different brews with it. Crusher Stampede, it also combos pretty well with Norns. I think these two detachments, Crusher Stampede and Assimilation Swarm, are going to be, hand in hand with who's going to Norn the best. And honestly, I think Assimilation Swarm is probably going to be the better place for your Norns than Crusher Stampede. And I think probably most out of any of our detachments, this detachment is going to heavily depend on where our points shake up. Because I think Crusher Stampede is definitely one of those detachments where you want like a critical mass of monsters, and you want to be able to control the board with your monsters. So that means you have to have a lot of them. So if our monsters go up in points, I don't think they will. But if they do, then I think there's an immediate... Crusher Stampede is less viable, of course, because you won't be able to reach that threshold of, oh, I have X number of monsters and my opponents can't kill them in time. But I think if we get points decreases, or if monsters become really, really cheap, I think Crusher Stampede has the ability to do quite strong, especially if you combo it with the Norn detachment or something like that. Also, even with the Lictor detachment, being able to give some Neurolictors a reactive move and saying that your scoring pieces are just going to stick around for a really long time in Crusher Stampede seems really, really good. I think the worst thing for Crusher Stampede is the fact that it has Purge the Foe. And I don't know. Again, we don't know where points are, but historically, Tyranid's, if Tyranid's goal is to destroy and kill a whole bunch of units, and that's your primary mission, they haven't been super great at that throughout 10th, and I'll be interested to see where they sit in 11th, but I would kind of lean to believe that they would not be the best. So, like, I'm not super excited with Tyranids playing Purge the Foe. I know it makes sense lore-wise, with Crusher Stampede being Purge the Foe. However, I definitely think, I don't know, if you're doing the Norn detachment with this, then you definitely take the take and hold side, and you kind of leave it at that. Synaptic Nexus. Now, Synaptic Nexus, I'm very excited to do some brews with. This Neurotyrant is Chef Neurotyrant. He's cooking up some cool recipes, cool army lists. I've always really loved Synaptic Nexus, and the fact that it's a 2 detachment point detachment seems pretty cool, and it's pretty exciting. I think there's a couple of different things to combo with. I think you can combo with Norns, of course. You can have fallback and charge Norn emissaries, Norn assimilators, which seems like a really good combo too, because if it's locked in combat on its home objective in your command phase, you can say, oh, I'm going to go to that objective over there instead. And in fact, I'm also going to fall back and charge and do that. That's pretty good. I think that's a pretty fun combo. And you can also give them, like Armor of Contempt, essentially, and things like that. And it seems pretty cool. In addition, the Warrior detachment, I know it's kind of like a non-bow because the Warriors give them a 5-up invulnerable save, and then Synaptic Nexus also gives a once per game 5-up invulnerable save. So that's kind of a weird, like, misnomer or whatever. But it's still pretty good, getting +1 to hit on all of your Warriors for a turn. That's quite strong. If you bring the Lash Rip Prime with a whole bunch of Hormagaunts, you could give those Hormagaunts +1 to hit, and you give the Lash Rip Prime the awesome blender enhancement. That's pretty good too. It seems super sweet. In addition, this detachment, I think, relies pretty heavily, or it doesn't rely. It has the opportunity to do a whole lot of different Battle Shocks shenanigans. And I think Battle Shock is actually much better in 11th edition now, for us at least. It's much worse for everybody else, so that's pretty sweet. And the fact that Synaptic Nexus has some flexibility with different stratagems that affect that, especially like the grenade stratagem, and just having units that want to Battle Shock people. It seems pretty fun. It seems pretty good. I don't think that this is going to be a broken detachment, but I think it is probably going to be one of our most fun detachments to kind of brew with, find out what combinations work the best for it, and make some fun combos. I've always liked the Screamer Killer Neurolictor combo. That seems pretty cool. And then it's Disruption disposition. If you're comboing this with, Warriors or the Norns, I think you probably want Take and Hold. But I don't know. If you have enough units to do kind of some different action shenanigans and stuff, Disruption might be fine for you as well. Who knows? It is very early to tell, but my first leaning is going to be wanting to combo up with Warriors or Norns and take and hold. Unending Swarm. Yeah, it's 2 detachment points, folks. I don't know. I think Unending Swarm, I think this is a bandage, right? I think they're going to be doing something with it. Once a Codex happens, I thought there was a chance that this detachment could be 1 detachment point. Who knows? Whatever. Swarms are even worse in 11th edition too, so them making it 2 detachment points, I think there's a case that it could be 1 detachment point. But then if you combo it with a 2 detachment point detachment, then you have 12 stratagems. I think that's too much. But I think we can all agree that Unending Swarm is probably not really great. It's Take and Hold too. But moving on. Vanguard Onslaught. Let's go. If you know me, you know I love Vanguard Onslaught. And I've been actually playing Vanguard Onslaught a whole bunch on Wednesday Night Warhammer. So if you haven't checked out those battle reports, I strongly suggest you check them out. They're fun. And I think I'm bringing some fun lists, and they're doing quite well. Especially the melee changes in 11th edition seem really, really good for that. The fight phase in 11th edition gives you a whole lot of flexibility with your pile-ins and your consolidations, and the fact that overrun, pile-ins exist now, which is kind of what it was in 10th. It's pretty exciting, and you can really manipulate the charge phase as well as the fight phase in a way that favors you if you are the charging player, of course. And Vanguard Onslaught, of course, really, really likes that. In addition, I think we have really good flexibility with what 1-point detachments that we're going to be taking, either the Lictors or the Warriors. I think the Lictors is like the first no-brainer. You're like, oh, it's Vanguard Onslaught. Of course, you're just going to take Lictors, and then you just do that, which does allow for some really, really good flexibility in mission play with those deep striking Lictors and the little bit stronger Von Ryan Sleepers with their specific stratagems. And I think that's pretty valuable as well. And as well as the reactive move on the Neurolictor. There's a chance actually that you don't need it though. And I think Vanguard Onslaught is really good with mission play and being able to maneuver around the table with fallbacks and advances and everything. And I think that there might be a chance that you maybe want just a little bit more damage, and you maybe want to side on the Warrior side just to get a couple of units to punch a little bit harder in order for you to secure the table space in a way that is meaningful for your game. I'm going to be playing a list on Vanguard Onslaught comboed with the Warrior detachment tomorrow morning, Monday morning, actually. I think we're going to be starting around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to be playing against some Chaos Knights with my good friend Ben. So if you're interested in that, I would highly recommend that you try to catch us live or see the VOD as well. And I will link Wednesday Night Warhammer. It's on Wednesday Night Warhammer. I'll link it in the description below. And last but not least, it's Recon. It's Reconnaissance. I think Reconnaissance is one of the best dispositions. Because it's kind of like there's one mission where all you do is engage in all fronts. And then that's your primary. Seems good. Biovores love that, right? Lictors love that. Seems great. Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, that's the video. A short ramble, 30-minute ramble. I hope you've enjoyed everybody figuring out where Tyranids are and the rest of the game is. And I hope you enjoy these kinds of videos. There's going to be a lot more coming very soon. I'm hoping to do more tactics and more zooming in on specific units. I'm just kind of stalling and waiting until we know the points so that I feel like accurately assess how each unit is going to be within the scope of the game. So subscribe. Triple check, make sure that you subscribe. We'd love to have you join the Hive Mind and help us get to those 5,000 subscribers. All right, everybody. I will see you next time. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.